I am very excited to introduce you to those watching because you are in an industry that looks so glamorous and is glamorous and is also a whole lot of work. Tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, who you do it for.
Sure. I have a business called Sample Room, which is a technical development, product development business for the fashion and textile industry. And within that, we have a program called the Fashion Label Launchpad, which is a full mentoring and support program for people who with no prior knowledge or experience in the industry who are looking to launch either a fashion or a product business. And we do that through an online community as well as one-on-one support and mentoring through the process.
Now, yours is quite an established business. How many years have you been in business?
We're coming up to 13 years in January.
Great. And you have a team of staff, or
Yes.
you have a team, right? Yes. Great.
Yes, we have a team of 8, plus my husband is in the business. He joined 3 years ago.
That's great. And so I work with my partner, as you know, but those watching may not know. And that is a wonderful thing when you can get a partnership that actually works like that, because you have similar goals and you're working and you don't get to the end of the day and go, how's your day? You kind of know. Now you've got 8 others, including your husband. And at what point do you remember in your trajectory from year 1 when you hit 6 figures and then when you hit 7 figures?
We hit 6 figures at about year 3, and then we still want to have about 100,000 a year for the next 5 years, and then we plateaued for a few years, and then we just ticked over into 7 figures last year, which was great considering it was COVID, and then we are looking for that again this year.
Great. And so looking for an uptick again in the new year. And so as you were growing the business, what I understand is growing a big business for you wasn't a mindset, it wasn't something you had to get your mind around. You were cool with having a big business, but what has had to change from year 1 to year 3 to year 5 to year 7 for you?
Yeah, it's been really interesting. I've never really had any barriers around the turnover. And I, even when I do my budget each year, I just put a number in, it's got a bit of theory to it, but it's sort of big goals and I'm not really afraid of not reaching them. But what really had to shift for me was how I acted in the business. I used to have this mindset around I had to do the work with people in order to motivate them to do the work. And that keeps you really small because you end up being the person doing most of the work. So I've really tried to concentrate, particularly in the last 2 years during COVID when we've been in the office and out of the office, in really handing that over and feeling okay with that. There's been a number of times where, you might train a team member to do something and then you go, I'll just take that back. I can do it quicker and better. It's a real trap. But I've been really persistent in just, again, reiterating and checking. And, I have a favorite saying that delegation is not abdication, that it still requires
That's a good distinction. Can you talk to that a little bit? Because that's really, I think that's really powerful.
It's really, I know that when everyone thinks they get to the point of employing someone, they go, oh, I'm so exhausted that I'll just hand over and do it. But you really now have another 3 months worth of just as much work because you need to be doing the work with them and checking and training and updating, because it takes a long time for people to understand your vision. And particularly, I personally think it takes 7 people to replace a business owner. And so there's a lot of work that goes into doing those things. So, and I still do it. Even yesterday, I thought, I'll just do it myself. And then you're sitting there doing it going, this is crazy. I'm paying someone to do this. Okay, let's go through this again and explain in detail what it is that needs to happen to reach that goal. Our main sample room business, I often say it should just be called Julia, because at the end of the day, if anything goes wrong, it still reflects on me personally. And so the other thing that we have been developing over the last 8 years is changing from a time-based business to a product business with another website called Pattern Room, which we were over in Texas last March for the start of a 3-week international trade show tour when Texas got shut down. But that's really taking what we know and what we've learned from our customers and saying, well, look, there is a need for this particular customer group that don't need the same services the fashion industry, it's the custom sportswear industry, and that is the same all over the world. So it's an online pattern catalogue that we sell all over the world. And that is a big focus for us to move out of that time for money and that need for that detail, because we really sort of have reached a bit of a cap in what we do. But, we incorporate a number of different products, but it's always a juggling act.
And you can do that, as you build the business, as you start to bring some more income and some more profit, you can start to look at other segments of the community that you're not serving, or different products that maybe leverage your time in a different way. You are the CEO. At what point did you start thinking like a CEO? Was there a turning point, or did you just adopt it over time? How did that happen?
I think it's only really been the last, or maybe in the last 3 years. I would say that actually when my husband joined the business, I stole him back from KPMG, which was why someone said to me, "You've managed to employ your husband, from KPMG," which was quite interesting. And even though he has a very different skill set to what I do and works in a very different way, coming from big corporate, he did bring that level of professional development for the team and really pushed me to step back and to develop a management structure so that, you're training this person and they've got goals of where they want to go, and that aligns with what the business strategy is, and sort of gave me permission to do those things, to say, no, that's not my role. My role is this. So I'm very quick thinking. I work 1,000,000 miles an hour. I've got 1,000,000 ideas. That's not what he does, but he's really good at bringing the structure to it. So a lot of what we've been working on recently is the mindset around the new business. If that business was to turn over $8 million, what would it have to look like? So you start looking
Isn't
at
that
other
interesting? Yes, you think about it differently, right? Because if it's only going to be a little incremental growth, we can adjust and kind of, the edges might be a little fuzzy. But once you say, oh, it's going to be 8x, then you can't, the same systems don't work. The technology is going to be different. The team structure is going to be different. The way that you plan for that, the cash flow projections, so much changes. And that's an interesting way to put yourself into the future. One of the exercises I like to do with women is to have them create an organizational chart, even when they're a solopreneur, of what the business might look like. And then they can start to think, oh, you know what? Yeah, I guess someone needs to take care of finances. Someone, like you mentioned, that the program is Julia. Someone needs to take care of marketing. Someone needs to do customer support. Someone needs to do operations, etc. And even if they're wearing all the hats at the moment and they're feeling exhausted and overwhelmed, having a picture of where you want to go, having that direction, goes back to something that I think is really important. That is having an idea of where you want to go, and then you work backward from there. Right. So if we don't have a vision of where we want to go, we're trying to sort of inch our way forward in life. It's very different to having an idea of where you want to go and then designing the pathway to there. And sometimes that pathway takes longer, as you know, Julia, than other times to get to, but at least there's a good direction. Now, as you've moved out of the day-to-day, and more into your specialty, how does that feel?
Oh, it feels great. It feels really good. And I am still in I still do have a high level of attention to detail and checking in the business because of the nature of what we do. But one of the things I've done over the last 2 years, I've implemented a lot of new systems and processes. Awesome. And one was a project management system. And just the other day, I checked through that and I was able to delegate further in a system. So it wasn't just every day myself saying to someone, oh, that's your new role. It comes up on their project for the day. So as we've trained up junior staff to be more experienced, then they can take on more that you can then delegate from the higher level staff. And so it's really allowed me to think much clearer about the business and on the business and come up with bigger and better ideas, which has been wonderful. So I've actually managed to stay up in regional Victoria for the last 4 months, and the team has still been working in the office. I'm going back on Saturday, which I'm very sad about, but I never, ever thought that was possible. I didn't even think, I remember going away for my honeymoon for 2 weeks and freaking out about the work won't get done. What will happen? But so that has been amazing. The last 2 years of all the terrible things that have happened, it's been really great for me to change my mindset into a bigger, more solid business.
Right. That's fascinating. And I love that you've had the luxury, well, I guess it didn't feel like a luxury at the time, but the ability to go to another place and to have the business still grow and to have the team still taking care of things and the systems and processes in place. That is part of building a 6- and 7-figure business, about being committed to creating a business that suits you, that suits your lifestyle, where you get to do more and more of what you love every single day, and that you bring people around you to support with the other things. And, you said it, and it's very honest, and I love that. Sometimes you end up being there going, why am I doing this? I'm paying someone to do this, and we go down that little rabbit hole, but you're experienced enough, you've done this enough to know, okay, I need to train that person differently. Maybe we need a different process. Maybe we need another way to know that, that fell to the ground. Okay, great. We need to do that differently. This is, I think, an important point. One of the things that I know you're doing differently is that you're not hanging on to just any client. The client has to be right for you. And I think that's a very bold decision, because not everyone is our client. So tell us how you think about right fit for clients for you.
Yeah, for a very long time. So I've always had the mindset that you can go broke sitting on the beach. There's no benefit in going broke working hard. So I've always charged the right amount. But if somebody is not the right fit, then I, in the most gracious way possible, say that we're not the right fit, because you can spend a lot of time trying to make things right for the wrong client and then really ignore the ones that are wonderful clients. And you end up being a little bit, bit annoyed and, not quite answering the email correctly, and you can damage a lot of relationships. And the same goes for team as well. You can have somebody in your team who has all the right skill set, but they're not the right energy. They can be quite toxic at times, and it can turn a really great team sour very quickly. So it's being brave enough to think, that person's got the skills, and it means I'm going to have to do it again, but they're just not right. It's just not right for the growth of the business. That's a really hard one to learn. So, I think I'm very thankful, and I trained a lot of friends in business on how to let somebody go who's not right. And so having that script, I guess, that you can feel comfortable to sit in front of someone and say, maybe this isn't the right place for you. And the same goes for clients as well. This isn't the right place for you.
I love that. I think we might have to share your brilliance on that with some of the community members, because I know what it's like that you hold on to someone for way too long. You can see it's having an impact on the business. You can see it's having an impact on others, because they're seeing someone who's not performing at the same level, brings everyone down. So the fact that you've now been able to train others on your system for doing that. And you're right, we'll bring on staff. And again, as you're growing a 6- and 7-figure business, you're going to mishire. You're going to, and sometimes it'll be the person, sometimes it'll be your ability to onboard them and motivate them and keep them. Sometimes the role's not right. And I can tell you, I've made that mistake many times. I remember in one of my early years in business, Julia, I had 4 receptionists in 1 year. They would start, they were never good enough, or they'd leave, or there'd be some frustration on either party. And what I realized was I was the common denominator. Now, it wasn't anything specifically I was doing. It was what I wasn't doing. We didn't have this is what it means to be successful in this role. This is exactly how you answer the phone, take a message, deal with a courier, announce an appointment, deal with a guest in the foyer. This was an in-person business at the time. And know that, at the end of the day, you've done a good job. And so we put systems and process in place. But other times it's been just a cultural fit, or I remember one time, and it was just when I was moving overseas to open an office there, and there was gossip happening in the business, and that is something I'm very against. And someone who I had appointed in a senior role said, that just happens in businesses. Her reference was corporate, and I went, that doesn't happen in our business. So no. And it was a really hard call, because like you said, they might have the perfect skill set, but if it's going to be toxic inside of your environment, then our role as business leaders is to protect our environment. And that means protecting the business and others in the business. Let's talk about mindset, because, you have no problem envisioning a big business and you're creating a big business. So would you disclose to us what perhaps have been the mindset shifts that you've had to make?
Definitely. Yeah, so no problems about seeing a big business and envisaging that, but I have a really big block to getting on social media. I often say I'm really comfortable talking in front of people who have paid to see me. I do that every week, and I'm really comfortable with that. But being in front of people who haven't, sort of a cold call, I guess, even though I overcame the cold call jitters a long time ago. It's a really big thing. So I'm actually just seeking out some help for that to see what that barrier is. I'm really great at taking the photo for social media, but there's something that stops between taking the photo and uploading it. And so that's a really big part, and it's a big part of us growing to the next stage, is to become more visible. And whenever I do jump onto social media to do a live, it results in fantastic sales. People say that they love it. And so it's just a matter of really strategizing that and locking that in, and just not saying no to doing what I've locked into my schedule.
It's interesting. You and I actually, before we came on live today, we're having a little chat about that, because I similarly, and I see this all the time, being more visible in our business can be a mindset that stops a lot of us from growing profitable businesses, because in the end, people connect with people. And so whether your ideal client is an HR manager inside of a corporation, whether it's the parent of a child with diabetes, whether it's whoever it is, at some point they're going to connect. And if I think of the brands that I love the most, there's usually a person that I'm connected to. And so, but I get that. I get that idea of, I can take the photo and I think, that'll make a good post. And then it just lives in my library with thousands of other photos that never see the light of day, because then I have to get out there with it, and I can feel myself getting uncomfortable just talking about it. So I think maybe that's going to be a goal for the both of us.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm happy to be co-accountable with you. Let's talk about the next 12 months. What does it look like for Sample Room? Where would you be ecstatic to be 12 months from now?
Well, it's very exciting. I've actually joined the masterclass for the next year, which is really exciting, because I've sort of been in a very unusual position that over the last 13 years, I have not really concentrated on marketing any more than Instagram. We've been very fortunate. We're kind of in an area of the industry that there's very few people that do what we do. And so we have always come up the top of search engines, etc., and industry know us.
Yes,
but
great.
I'm about to relaunch the Fashion Label Launchpad. It was first developed 8 years ago. We were kind of one of the first to have an online course, and it definitely is showing its date. And so the last year, it's been my lockdown project to re-record the whole program. And I really want to extend that both in the Australian and international market. As everyone knows, ethical, sustainable fashion is a buzzword, but very popular and very important. But there is a big gap between people wanting to develop a sustainable, ethical brand and knowing how to do that. And particularly with the move back onshore, that's really where my specialty is, in local production. And that is the same whether you're here or Costa Rica or Los Angeles or the UK. We still need people to understand how to work with manufacturers and work in that local environment. So I'm looking to develop that and the marketing of that brand so that it's international and is also a standalone service, not just wrapped up with the pattern making and sample making. So we can help people all over the world and help manufacturers all over the world have customers that they can actually work with.
That is a big, bold goal, and I love big, bold goals. And I'm so excited that you are part of the Marketing Mastermind and that we do get to be part of that journey with you through HerBusiness over the next 12 months in, developing the offer, getting the marketing, helping you feel more comfortable online, knowing that your messaging and the marketing are all working. Like you said, you've built this incredible business without really having to put a big focus on marketing. But now you're going to a different market. You're going with a different product. You're putting together an offer, and how you brand it and price it and name it and what you include in it and how you get it out there in the world is something that we love helping women do. So I'm very excited. And I just want to say thank you so much for being here today. I've just so enjoyed this conversation.
Wonderful, Susie. Thanks so much for your time. Lovely to be here.
Thank you. Thank you so much.